Welcome to Safe and Sound, a monthly podcast on cybersecurity, presented by GrandPad and the Leighton Podcast Network. Welcome in once again. It is time for Safe and Sound, our podcast focused on helping keep seniors safe online, sponsored, of course, by our good friends at GrandPad, and we're happy to welcome in once again the CEO of GrandPad, Scott Lean. And Scott, we're right in the middle of election season. We've got, probably about 60 days out from the election. We're all getting a lot of email. We're getting a lot of text messages. We're getting a lot of messages when it comes to the election. And that's where we want to focus a little bit today, because sadly, the scammers have started to figure that part of it out too.
Thanks for having me on, Brian. Sadly, the bad guys, the scammers, are working overtime, and they are so smart, and they have such good tools, and they're scamming a lot of people and making a lot of money, which just fuels their enthusiasm. And we all know it's a hot political season, lots of big elections here over the next month or so. And the amount of scam emails, text messages, phone calls that I've gotten already is just shocking to me. So, we're only going to see the political scams increase over the coming few weeks, and they come in all different forms. But what they're after is your money and your personal information. So they also are so sophisticated, they're actually setting up their own scam packs, so political action groups that, they'll go to all the trouble and set up a scam pack, and it might look fairly legit on the surface, but they're either just using that to take all your money or 90% of it. Maybe a little of it will go to the candidate. So want to talk about some of the tips and tricks that you can do to avoid getting scammed during this election season.
Before we get there, let's drill down a little bit on what you just said, because I had not heard that. That is interesting, frightening, scary all at the same time. But don't they have to, when they set up a PAC, doesn't it have to go through your typical government regulations and all that kind of stuff? Or are they literally disguising it so much that it looks legit?
That's exactly what they're doing. It's very easy to disguise it, make the appearance that everything is legit and filed and buttoned down. So there is ones that are totally fake scam. They just are trying to make it look like it's real. There's others that are actually filed and are, quote, legitimate, but the money's not actually getting to the intended use and not getting to the cause or candidate that you're supporting. So I think we all just need to be real suspicious, but I want to be clear. We should all be involved in our government and our elections, and it's good to give and be educated, but we've got to just be really, really careful, because as we've talked about in prior podcasts, the bad guys are using AI and extremely sophisticated tools. So it will seem very, very legitimate when you're getting that outreach.
So what are the red flags? What do we look for? What are ways to notice fake PAC from real PAC?
It's just going to come in the form first of phishing emails, text messages, robocalls, phone calls, and also things that you'll get in the mail, U.S. postal mail. It'll look very legitimate.
But we're getting those and they're real. So what are the nuances we should be looking for?
Sadly, we have to do our homework, and we've got to dig. And the thing that I say is you've got to really go to the source. So assume when someone's reaching out to you like that, assume it likely is a scam, because the majority of them are. And then you've got to start digging and go, well, I do want to donate to candidate XYZ. Google, and then go to their name and make sure that the web address, the URL, is correct, and really look at it with a critical eye. You and I were talking, make sure there's not a fake character inserted, and go there and look around their website. And then you click on button or link on their website, say, hey, I want to donate to this candidate. So you're the one initiating it. Don't click on an email. Don't click on a text message. Don't respond to some robocall. You get something in the postal mail that says, hey, give this. What organization is it? And then go to that website directly. Do your own research so you're coming at it.
And one of the things I don't want, to your point, everybody needs to be involved in the process. And we don't want to discourage somebody who wants to donate, but doesn't it make more sense to donate directly to the candidate's campaign, or to, depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, either like a Minnesota Republican Party or a Minnesota Democratic Party, versus maybe trying to go through one of these?
That's right. Go to the source and to the specific candidate or to the party. And to that point, like for Democrats, there's Act Blue, the organization, and for Republicans, Win Red. These platforms are widely used and trusted, and so that's one source you can go to. But I think the other thing that we always tell everyone is this framework about how to detect a scam, and the acronym is STOP, stop. So whenever you're getting a suspicious contact, phone call, email, text message, who is this? What is this? Don't click on it. Just look at it at the surface, say, why am I getting this anonymous phone call? Second, the T, threats and urgency, where somebody's pushing you to do something right now. Now, this is where the bad guys are taking advantage of the election season. It's a limited time frame. And I know the evening and the day after of the last presidential debate, I got a ton of text messages because they're like, hey, right now the debate just happened. You need to give to candidate X or Y, right? So there's this urgency. The O is outlandish promises. So give this and you're going to get this big outcome. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. And whenever they're asking for payment requests or any other personal information, that's where your red flag should go up. So the STOP kind of acronym, remember that. The other thing is polling. There's tons of election polling going on, and people get phone calls on that. Some of that's legit, most of it's fake. So again, the best thing to do is hang up, because the pollsters, the fake pollsters, they'll ask you questions about the candidates and your leanings, but then they'll weave in, okay, yeah, all right, thank you, Brian. So I just want to verify your address. What is that again? And they get your home address. And we just need to verify your social security number, and they get you to say your social security number, and they just weave that into their talk track. All of a sudden, you've inadvertently given them a bunch of personal information. So the best thing to do is just pull back on that.
Are we seeing, because of election season and because, to your point, the phone does ring a lot? It's pollsters, it's candidates or somebody on their behalf asking for how you're leaning or whatever. Are we seeing some AI and copied and voices working into that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. The bad guys are using all the most sophisticated tools, including AI. So their ability to do deep fakes, which is copying and making a replica of someone's voice. So it could be like, hey, Brian, this is your old friend Scott Lean here. How you doing? I just want to, I'm working on behalf of candidate XYZ. I'd just love to get your input. And it's going to be very conversational. We've recently evaluated some of these AI chatbots. It's, you're hard-pressed to tell that it's not a human being that you're talking to, and it can have any voice, and it can respond to any question or comment you make, and it's very conversational, just like you and I, where it can interrupt. You can interrupt that. Again, the best thing to do when you get these phone calls is hang up, do your research, and again, if you are compelled and want to donate to a candidate, you do your primary research, Google them, and go give directly to them. The big thing I tell people is just block unknown numbers. As you get phone calls and text messages, all smartphones now, you can block numbers, and so that you don't have to deal with those. If you think it like, wow, it might be my doctor or someone that's trying to get a hold of me, let them leave a message. They'll leave a voice message if it's legitimate, and then you can call that person back. So those are just a few tips that I'd offer.
That's, I guess, one of the things that I want to circle back to something you said a second ago, which I think is so vitally important. The talk tracks that these guys are doing when they're, look, we all like to be asked our opinion, right? And so this time of year when the pollsters are calling and trying to get information out of you, they're just really not going to ask for your social security number. They're not going to ask for banking information. It's just, I think it's really important that people pay attention to that talk track.
That's right. If somebody's asking you those kind of details, again, you can just politely say, I'm not comfortable with this, and hang up and take me off your list. And again, by law, people are not supposed to call, unsolicited to cell phone numbers. And they're also, you can put yourself on a do not call list. I've done that. It helps a little bit. The bad guys, the real criminals, still just ignore that. But you've got to set up those defenses. And the key thing is, of course, make sure all your friends and families and your neighbors and people that you could add them to your contacts with their name so that you can see. And sadly, again, even there, people can spoof numbers. So it can look like, hey, this is my son Isaac calling me. And it will say that, but then he gets on the phone, maybe it sounds like him, maybe it doesn't, but he's making strange requests. In that case, you hang up, say, yeah, we got a bad connection, I'm going to call you back. And I've done that before and say, oh, okay, now I called you. I know that I actually am talking to the person that I thought I was.
And back in the day when you had a lot of call centers and they had call dialers and all that stuff, the do not call list became really, really well known. I don't know that it's as well known anymore. So if somebody wants to at least try and block some of this, how do they do that?
First, on your own phone, as those calls come in, you can block both the phone call and the text message. I probably block 10 things a day. There are some good robocall blocker tools, apps that are legit that you can download and add. And iPhones and Android phones both have additional settings. Like you can say, if the phone call coming in isn't in my contacts, it'll go straight to voicemail, as an example. So there are quite a lot of settings. Some of those things get complicated. The thing I always tell people is we, GrandPad, are happy to help people with any of these questions, even if you're not a GrandPad customer, because our mission is just to help people avoid getting scammed. So don't hesitate to call us. Go to our website, grandpad.net, or call us anytime. A human being will answer the phone 24 hours a day at 800-704-9412. The thing I would say specifically about election fraud and political donations, go to the source website. So if you want to give to candidate XYZ, go directly to their website, look carefully at the link, read carefully, and then donate directly to them. The other source, the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, has a good website where you can make sure that a PAC is registered, or you can file a complaint there, like if you see someone trying to scam you around election fraud.
So it seems to be a theme now 4 episodes in. It's just be vigilant, question everything, right? I mean, that's the thing that seems like we talk about all the time is just slow down, stop, and just question it, because it's not going to take that much time before you just take a second. Pivoting for just a second on that topic, you may have seen recently, I believe it was a business in Winona that got scammed, a business now, that got scammed out of $50,000. There was one of their vendors, somebody spoofed them as one of their vendors, got a hold of somebody in their accounting department and said, we need this check now. And it was written, and of course it wasn't one of their vendors. So they're branching out a little bit beyond just personal and moving into business. And again, it's just one of those, they're getting really good at looking like who they aren't.
I'm a business owner, and we've had that exact scam try to be perpetrated against us. They go after businesses, they go after nonprofit organizations, they go after churches, they go after city governments, anywhere where there's money. And on that particular point, if you're a business owner or have a team, a staff, you've got to talk to them about it. You've got to educate them. We have internal processes that we've set up around very specifically, obviously, how are payments made? How do you verify that it is indeed the boss who's saying this payment needs to be there? And so we've told our staff, too, you've got to be suspicious. And the common thing, this easy thing is always slow down on things and double check.
Anytime, and I've heard you say this now, we've known each other for a few months, and I've heard you say it so many times, their whole idea is how quick can they make you do something?
They create a sense of urgency, they manipulate you, they get people to panic. And it could be, hey, this is your grandson, my friends got in trouble and we're in jail, I need you to do this right now. And so they prey off people's fears and what's important to them. They're extremely good at manipulating people. So you've got to talk about this. I think the closing thing we would say is, as families, talk about this, talk about it with the seniors in your family, mom and dad, so that they're aware of this. And we don't want people to be scared. You shouldn't be scared. You should just be educated and know how to deal with this so that it doesn't happen to you. And one last thing about making donations to campaigns. Again, we want everyone to be involved in the political process and support the candidates that you respect. If you do make donations, don't do cash donations. Don't do untraceable payment methods. Don't use cryptocurrency or gift cards or anything strange. In this case, a credit card is best. You can trace it. You can get a receipt that shows you've made a donation. It should be all very straightforward and very above board. If there's anything strange and they're saying, oh, you got to pay with crypto or you got to pay with this other form of payment, no legitimate candidate is going to do that.
Well, and I'm not sure they could. I'm sure election laws wouldn't allow them to do it anyway, would it?
That's right. They can't. Everything has to be traced. They have to know where it's coming from.
Well, Scott, once again, so informational, so topical once again, and just so thankful that we get the opportunity each month to do this. You and I talked, I think, from episode 1, or actually before we even recorded episode 1, that the best thing we can do, and you've mentioned it 2 or 3 more times today, and that's education.
Talk about it. Make sure you're staying informed on this. GrandPad is a great source of information. Our whole solution is increasing communication amongst family, friends, and caregivers in what we call the circle of trust and keeping the bad guys out. So love to have you take a look at how we can help at grandpad.net. And I think the thing I would close with today is think about that super senior in your life, someone over the age of 75, could be mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, or a neighbor. Just give them a call, ask them how they're doing. And a lot of times people, they're maybe embarrassed. They don't want to bring it up. So you reach out to them. How you doing? Just start talking to them. Say, hey, it's election season. Be careful. There's lots of fraudsters out there, and they're gonna try to take your money. So be careful.
I think the 2 things I admire most about GrandPad is, number 1, the older you get, the more you just want to be connected. You want to talk to people, and GrandPad allows that to happen safely, which is something I really, really admire. And then I love the culture of this company and that you don't have to be a GrandPad subscriber to still get help. You guys want to help everybody and keep everybody safe, and that's something I really, really admire. So, Scott, once again, thank you. Appreciate your time as always, and can't wait to get together with you again next month. Safe and Sound is a monthly podcast presented by GrandPad and the Layton Podcast Network. Find this and other podcasts on demand at WinonaRadio.com.